Hello and welcome. I am Cassidy Cash. Today we are celebrating 200 episodes of That Shakespeare Life. As you can see, I have wonderful lute music going in the background. This is 16th century Venetian lute music from Paul Odette that I am going to turn the volume down on because I can't think with it going. But we are celebrating Shakespeare style here today. I am really just thrilled to have been podcasting for 4 years. It doesn't feel like it's been that long. We spent about a year getting ready for the podcast, and then we launched it the week of Shakespeare's birthday in 2018. And so today we're celebrating by announcing the winners of two prize packs that we're giving away in honor of our 200 episodes. So we have two prize packs, and that's how that works. We'll be drawing one prize pack from the people on our email list and one prize pack from the people that are our patrons. The Patreon gift pack is a little bit bigger, but the email list giveaway is just as cool. So I'm going to take a minute and take you on a tour of the best here at That Shakespeare Life, tell you a little bit about our platform and what we do, and give you some samples of episodes that, if you're new to That Shakespeare Life, would be some great places to start to get to know us better. As I'm telling you about the background here, you can, if you haven't already, join the giveaway and sign up, enter to win by joining our email list at CassidyCash.com, or you can become a patron right now for just $5 a month on patreon.com/That Shakespeare Life. If you want to join while I'm talking, I am going to do the live giveaway at the end. So as we get started here today, I am going to see if I should have checked if I could screen share before I went live, but I don't immediately see how to do that. So instead, I'm just going to tell you. I'm going to walk you through our top 10 episodes here at That Shakespeare Life. Now, this runs the gambit of our show, and it goes in order of most listens. So these are the episodes that have been most listened to on our platform. Starting with number 10 is episode 121, Shakespeare's French with Jennifer Nicholson. In Shakespeare's Henry V, he gives this lovely, it's really romantic love declaration, marriage proposal in French. And it's gorgeous. It's one of my favorite scenes. But in this episode, Jennifer Nicholson walks us through the understanding and place of the French language during Shakespeare's lifetime. England was very strongly pro-England at this point in history, even leaning a little bit anti-French. They had taken measures like banning the import of French playing cards at this time, for example. So it's really interesting for Shakespeare to portray the French and the French language so positively in his staunchly pro-England play. So Jennifer walks us through the history there of what we can expect. And that is number 10. You can listen to this episode at CassidyCash.com/episode 121. Do want to let you know there is a live chat. You can talk with me while I'm going through these episodes. If you have questions or want to know more, just throw them in the chat there and I'll reply. The number 9 on our list, and we're going to do a countdown of the top 10 here, is episode 131. This is Rapier and Italian Fencing with Tobias Capwell. I was really honored to get to speak with Tobias. He's at the Wallace Collection in London, and he stops by to talk with us about the rapier specifically. This sword came into fashion in England in the mid-16th century, and it plays a prominent role in Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, but it goes on to get mentioned over 30 times across several other plays, including Hamlet, Love's Labour's Lost, and of course the Henriade plays. The terminology that Shakespeare's characters use, like Mercutio referring to passato, staccato, and punto reverso, these are all Italian fencing terms that were being taught by Italian fencing masters in England at the time Shakespeare wrote this play. So Tobias Capwell walks us through the history of what was going on and what the terms mean and how to better understand Italian rapier fencing. So that one you can find at CassidyCash.com/episode 131. Number 8 is Shane Ann Yonts comes on and talks with us about iambic pentameter. This is episode 82. And for all of these, I'm going to quit saying the URL because there's like several of them. It's just CassidyCash.com/episode number. So if you're interested in the one I'm telling you about, just go to the episode number after our URL and you'll find it. But I can maintain that this one is popular because iambic pentameter confuses a lot of people, and they're just not quite sure, what do I do with this? How does it work? How do I recognize it? And things like that. And so Shaynan is an expert in not just iambic pentameter, but she helps actors get ready for Shakespearean roles as a voice coach. And so she comes on to explain iambic pentameter for us in episode 182. Number 7 is Thomas Kidd with Darren Freeberry Jones. Darren is a good friend of the podcast. He's been on a couple of times, and you should definitely check out all of his episodes. But episode 134 on Thomas Kidd has been one of our most listened to episodes. Darren comes on and walks us through the English playwright Thomas Kidd. If you're not familiar with him, he is one of Shakespeare's contemporaries, and he arguably has as much, if not more, influence on the development of Renaissance theater than even Shakespeare himself. Kidd's play, The Spanish Tragedy, is thought to have introduced to the 16th century theater this tragic format that Shakespeare would go on to use later in his play Hamlet. We don't know that much about the life of Thomas Kidd, but what we do know is pretty remarkable. And Darren Freeberry Jones walks us through that history in episode 134. Number 6 is episode 126. This was so much fun to do. Tiffany Stern comes on to talk with us about Shakespeare in Parts. Tiffany Stern has been one of my heroes for a long time, and I was just thrilled to get to have her on the show and speak with her. And she comes on and talks with us about her publication titled Shakespeare in Parts. This is co-authored with Simon Palfrey. And it's about, there's this picture of a piece of paper captioned "The Part of Orlando" from Robert Greene's Orlando Furioso. Now, this comes from the 1590s. The image represents the reality that for Shakespeare, plays were handed out in parts, meaning each actor had a copy of what they were going to do, but they didn't have a copy or a heads up even about what the other actors were going to do. So a lot of their responses on stage to things that the other actors were doing or saying were pretty genuine, or at the very least, they were spontaneous, because the actors had only practiced and knew their parts. And Tiffany Stern comes on in episode 126 to walk us through that. And it has been, since we launched it, one of our most listened to episodes. Now we're into the top 5. So let's count down from 5, our top 5 most listened to episodes here at That Shakespeare Life. Number 5 is episode 123. This is the exhumation of Richard III with Matthew Morris. This was delightful. Matthew Morris is the lead archaeologist on a project that actually did exhume Richard III. They didn't set out to do that, but they found him in the process there, and he tells us about this discovery. This was widely talked about on the news, but he walks us through the DNA tests and all the different things that they did to locate his body on the very first day of their project, in fact. And then they talk about his grave and sort of the state of it. And we even ask him about, okay, but did you actually find scoliosis on his spine when you dug him up, and how real is that? He answers that question and so much more in episode 123 of That Shakespeare Life. Number 4 is Shakespeare's Daily Diet with Francine Segan. This one it's delightful to me that you guys love this and listen to it so much. This is the very second episode that we did on That Shakespeare Life, and it's one of my favorites because it's just such a true get to know a guy kind of question. When you want to learn about Shakespeare, finding out what he ate in a typical day is a great place to start. And Francine Segan is a great person to ask because she wrote a cookbook all about Shakespeare's kitchen. She walks us through how she researched her book and what we can know about what Shakespeare ate on a daily basis. So you can find that at cassiecash.com/episode 002. The first 10 of our episodes put the zeros in there. I was incredibly optimistic at the outset of my show that I would make it to triple digits in terms of how many episodes I would produce. And so I left room for it there. So our early episodes are numbered with those extra zeros that you'll see in there. Number 3 is episode 137 with Christopher Marlowe with Ross Barber. Ross comes on to walk us through the life of Christopher Marlowe. He is so much fun. If you have watched or read the books Discovery of Witches on television, the show that's based on Deborah Harkness's novels. Kit Marlowe is this Christopher Marlowe that we talk about on this episode, and he is just as flamboyant a character in real life as what they portrayed on the show. So if you thought it would be fun to get to know him better, this episode is a great place to do that. His life is full of fights, duels, murder, all kinds of crazy tales, and Ross walks us through a lot of it in episode 137. So you can find that on our website. Number 2 is How Shakespeare Sounded with David Crystal. David Crystal is such a fun person, and his son Ben has also been on our show. And they both specialize in what's called original pronunciation. If you're not familiar with that phrase, what it is it's basically the linguistic study of the way words would have been spoken in the 16th century. And you'll notice already that there's a difference in spelling because the English language wasn't solidified into a standard of how to spell things, but the different dialects and pronunciations of things were different back then too. And so David Crystal has done a lot of research, and that's it's so minor. Like, it's a ton of research that he's done professionally into this, into how Shakespeare would have sounded. And so he walks us through the process of training actors in this method of speaking, like how do you even learn how to do this? He also talks us through the history of how the field of original pronunciation takes into account the acoustics of the performance space and how would they have made variations on words depending on like whether you were in the Blackfriars versus the Globe. Would that have mattered? And he walks us through all of these, as well as a great demonstration of the spelling variations in the 16th century, which is a lot of fun. For example, the word often is often spelled Often, and the idea of pronouncing the letter T specifically was optional during Shakespeare's lifetime, and there were very few people using the pronunciation of that word the same way that we say it today, which can impact things like puns and the rhyming structure of what we think of as Shakespeare's performances. So it was really fun to go through that. You can explore David's episode with us at castacash.com/episode 100. That's just EP 100. And finally, our number 1 most listened to episode here at That Shakespeare Life is actually our pilot episode. That's right, the very first episode we ever did here at That Shakespeare Life. Our Life at Court episode with Philippa Bruhl is our number 1 highest listened to episode to date. Philippa walks us through what it means to go to court. And this was a question I genuinely had about studying the life of William Shakespeare. It was, you hear about, well, Shakespeare went to court. And I don't know if it's because I'm American and we don't have royalty or if this is just an antiquated idea, but I didn't have any idea what that meant. And so I decided I would go to an expert. And Philippa, who does live in England and is more familiar with a monarchy than I am, came onto our show and shared with us what she has studied as a professional British historian about what court means. She talks us through what did it mean for William Shakespeare to perform at court for Queen Elizabeth. And later, under the royal patronage of King James, he had this prosperous career. But what was his experience like when he went to court? And so we walk through all of that history, and you can find that at casticash.com/EP001. That is our very first pilot episode there on our website. And the last thing I want to tell you about before we do our drawing, and remember, you can still enter. Just go to castacash.com and click never miss an episode. Enter your email address there. That's the way to enter our email list drawing. Or you can sign up right now to be our patron at $5 a month or higher. There's lots of benefits in there, so you can choose the one that works for you. But if you decide to support our show at any level, you are automatically entered in the drawing I'm going to tell you about in just a minute. So here today, what I wanted to tell you about, and one of the reasons that we decided to have a Patreon drawing specifically today is because we do want to try and grow our Patreon platform. This is something we did not start out doing at the beginning of That Shakespeare Life. We just launched this a couple weeks ago. And what we're looking at doing is providing a way to deliver this in-depth history information for people that want that. Obviously, we're a podcast primarily, and so you get the interview for free on all of our episodes. And that always includes links to more episodes that you might like that are related to what you're listening to there. It includes information about the guest and where you can check out their research. And it also includes tailored book recommendations. So if you're interested in this topic and want to explore it further, we give you a book list where this is a reliable launching off point of things that you can explore to learn more. That is our show notes. There are a few Shakespeareans who join us here who are educators, researchers, or just really into Shakespeare history, like me, where they want all the details that they can get. And so we've put these into what's called detailed show notes. And those are now available in every single episode that we are doing. We're actually updating the website right now. So not all of them have these detailed show notes yet, but they will in the next month or two as we make our way through our library of 200 episodes and getting them all updated with this. But basically, what it means is down at the bottom of the show notes, there will now be a Patreon button. It'll say become a patron, and I believe the button is orange. Patreon updates that sometimes, but either way, it will say become a patron. If you click on that and log in with your Patreon details, it immediately expands the show notes. And I've got all the research that I put into the episode packed in there, and it opens automatically for patrons. I think it's a really cool feature, actually, because you can go to our website, castycash.com, and have access to all of this bonus content just for being our patron. So when you go to Patreon, the loyal podcast listener, that's what this is for. It gets you access to those detailed show notes. The two other tiers that you see on Patreon are our DIY History Club and then Experience Shakespeare. The DIY History Club is my show on YouTube on Saturdays where we do a game, a craft, or a recipe from Shakespeare's plays. As a DIY History Club member, you can get the printable instructions and a supply list for what we cover on YouTube. And that gives you what you need to be able to go and try it out at home. All of the crafts that we do on DIY History are designed to be things that you can do yourself. And so if you want to be interactive with us and really bring it home, it's fun just to watch me on Saturdays to see if it works, because sometimes they do and sometimes they blow up in my face. And so it's fun to just watch it. But if you want to be interactive and do it along with us, you can join the DIY History Club on Patreon to get that information. And then our third tier, the Experience Shakespeare tier on Patreon, is about our educators, our teachers who are trying to bring the podcast into their classroom. We have lesson plans and a printable resource library. It's full of maps and diagrams, illustrations, worksheets. I've even got things like writing prompts or dramatic scenes where it's like, okay, you want your students to engage with this play. Here's a scene that's really easy to break them up into groups and get them to act out this scene and identify these key elements. So I've called those just drama activities, but they're in this library too. And so it takes all of the history content and puts it in there. And so you have this printable resource library designed for educators that really want to go into the classroom with what we cover on the podcast. Additionally, with Experience Shakespeare, in addition to the resource library, you also get our Experience Shakespeare kits. These are a lot like what we cover on DIY History. In fact, there's some overlap there, but the extra step that you get is you get the history guide to the activity and some tailored worksheets that coordinate with that activity. So if you're taking what we do on DIY History and wanting to take it that one step further of not just trying it out for yourself, but you really want to take it into your classroom for your students to get to do, as a patron of Experience Shakespeare, our third tier over there on Patreon, you get access to all of our Experience Shakespeare kits. And right now there are 12. It's my hope to continue adding more to that. But right now there are 12 complete activity kits. And as a patron, you get lifetime access to those as long as you remain a patron. So that's our top 10 episodes. That's what Patreon is about. And it's brand new. If you love our show and you've been following along with us up to this point, please join us on Patreon. If nothing else, it is a fun place to connect with other Shakespeareans. And if you're like me, finding those other people that want to talk about history may not be your immediate circle. And we would love to be that group of friends for you over there on Patreon. So check that out at patreon.com/That Shakespeare Life. And now, without further ado, it is time to draw the winning names for our contests. So I am going to first you can't see what I've got pulled up here, but I am going to just scroll down my list and see my eyes are closed. I'm just going to scroll and I'm going to pick someone. Okay. I'm just going to put my mouse over something there. Who have I got? Graham. Graham, who joined our list in January. Hi, Graham. I will send you an email, Graham, to let you know that you have won our prize pack. You have won a one of our digital history activity kits from the Experience Shakespeare line, and you will get the hand illustrated timeline of Shakespeare's lifetime. I made this myself, and I love it because it walks you through not just what was happening in Shakespeare's lifetime, but what was going on in the UK around that time. So you'll see, how close was it to when Shakespeare had his first daughter that Sir Walter Raleigh was bringing tobacco back from the colonies to the New World. Now, those things were actually not right together, but you'll get to see all of those events lined up on. It's a 3-page timeline. It'll come to you as a PDF, and you can print both of those things. So I will email both of these things to you, Graham. If not tonight, definitely by tomorrow. So take a look for that. And obviously give me a shout over email if you don't get that. So this is Graham. Graham0921 is the first part of his email. I won't tell you all of it because I'm sure he doesn't want emails from everyone, but there you go. So yay, congratulations, Graham. All right, so on Patreon, our second prize pack. Now, this one's especially fun because not only am I going to give you the digital content that the email subscribers get, but you are also going to get an actual physical kit in the mail, assuming you reply back and give me your address, a physical kit in the mail where you can make your very own iron gall ink. This is the most common kind of ink used in Shakespeare's lifetime. We know that it was used on all kinds of, draw my water. It was used on all kinds of documents. Shakespeare would have used this to write his plays, and you can make it yourself at home. And I'm going to send you not just our digital activity kit that walks you through how to do it and the history for how to do it, but I'm also going to send you a supply box of the ingredients that you need to do it. This Experience Shakespeare kit is one of the few that we have where you will need specialty equipment to get it done. Most of our Experience Shakespeare kits, you can go like to your local market or store and find what you need. This one, obviously you have to have things like oak galls, which I don't know about you, my local grocery store doesn't carry that yet. I might be able to talk them into it. But anyway, especially if we get a lot of Shakespeareans doing it. But anyway, so that's what you're going to get today. And you'll also get that illustrated timeline, and you will get the official That Shakespeare Life coffee mug. It features a geometric color pencil portrait of Shakespeare based on the Chandos portrait. I drew that myself, and we put it on a nice coffee mug. Normally, you have to be a guest of That Shakespeare Life to get this exclusive coffee mug, but I am going to give it to one of our patrons today. So I'm going to close my eyes again. Actually, I'm just going to hold my hand over the screen because anyway, and I'm going to pick, okay. Oh, I missed. I didn't pick anyone. Okay. Who's this? John Royce. John Royce, I have your email. I will be getting in touch with you. You have won our prize pack. And if you will send me a good address for you, I will get this shipped out to you. It will probably be next week before you get it. It's Friday afternoon here. So even if I drop it in the mail this afternoon, it won't get out until Monday. But I will put that in the mail for you, and you should get it in the next couple of days. That's it for this week. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening to our show and just being there every week to enjoy Shakespeare history with me. You provide so much joy and hope and happiness. It's a fun little community we've built over the last 4 years, and I know I am so excited to be here with you. I'm Cassidy Cash. I'm the host of That Shakespeare Life, and I will see you with a new episode on Monday. As always, I hope you learn something new about the Bard. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.